Welcome to Contact Has Begun, brought to you by the grace of the World Puja Network, one of the last vestiges of truth concerning benevolent, spiritually and technologically advanced off-world visitors. Some refer to these visitors as our greater family of man or returning ancient ancestors. I am James Gillen, your host, and our guests also include cutting-edge physicists, authors, teachers, and healers dedicated to the awakening and healing of humanity and the earth. Let the journey begin. All right, this is James Gillen with World Puja, and we've got an awesome guest today. We've got Robert Dean, and for those of you who don't know Robert Dean, you haven't been paying attention. He's been around forever, kind of blowing the whistle and bringing out some information about UFOs, ETs, and the greater family of man and what's really going on, basically, behind the scenes, you might say. So without any further ado, I want to bring Bob on. Bob, do you want me to call you Bob or Robert? Which one do you prefer?
Well, Bob is what I go for, yeah.
Great. Okay, so we'll call you Bob. So, Bob, there's so many avenues, so many directions we can go with this, but one of the ones, I guess we should begin at the beginning. Now, you had a top-secret clearance within the military. Would you talk a little bit about that, just to give people a little bit of background on where you're coming from?
Well, James, I spent 27 years on active duty in the Army, and I had a top-secret clearance for most of my years. But when I was assigned to SHAPE headquarters back in 1963, which at that time was located just outside of Paris, and I went there to an assignment, my top secret was upgraded to cosmic top secret, which was then and still is today the highest level of clearance in NATO. And I spent 4 years in SHAPE headquarters in Paris, France, in 1963 to 1967. And it was while I was there that I was exposed to a military study, or became privy to a military study that was conducted from 1961 to 1964. And they concluded after the result of the study that the planet Earth and the human race apparently has been under survey or observation, analysis, or whatever, by several advanced extraterrestrial intelligences for, if not hundreds of years, perhaps even thousands of years. They also concluded as a result of the study, which they published in '64, that there apparently was not a threat involved because the repeated demonstration of incredibly advanced technology indicated to us that if they were hostile or malevolent, that the game would have been over a long time ago. So the study concluded that they were not hostile and malevolent, and there was some kind of a program underway, and there was nothing at that moment that we could do about it other than monitor it and see where it was going. Well, that was the beginning for me, James. That kicked me off, and it blew me away, literally.
Yeah.
And I've been on this personal journey now for, 46 years now.
Wow.
And
I'll have to hand it to you here. Probably I would say in the UFO community, you're probably one of the most highly respected, especially in my book, as far as, somebody that's maintained a high level of integrity, has stood tall throughout this whole situation, and actually brought a spiritual component to the table, which so many people were missing.
Well, James, your comments, I appreciate hearing that, but I went out of my way over the years not to get involved in a knockdown, drag-out brawl that has been going on in the so-called UFO community now for the last 20 years. I stay the hell away from that. I tried never, ever to say anything negative or hostile or critical about anybody else in the field. I've gone about my own business. I've developed connections. I've developed friendships over the years with people in the military, people in the intelligence agencies, and I've done my own research, and I was trained to be an intelligence analyst, and I've turned out to be, I've just hung in there all these years, and I've come up with some pretty fantastic information, and I've shared it. And about a year ago, I gave Carrie Cassidy. I think you probably have met Carrie.
Yes, I have.
Of Project Camelot. I gave her an interview last February in Laughlin, Nevada. And I literally came out of the closet in a big way, James. For the first time in 20 years, I admitted that I've had a personal relationship with non-human intelligence since I was 2 years old. And I figured that once I did that, everybody would say, well, the old coot's gone over the edge. He's lost it. And I thought, to hell with it. I told the truth. I came out of the closet literally in a big way, and I've admitted openly that I've had a personal relationship with them for most of my life. And I was kind of urged to do that because I have a good friend over in New Mexico by the name of Neil Freer. And I think you know who Neil is. He's a brilliant researcher. He's a brilliant writer, an educator. And Neil wrote a white paper here a couple of years back where he admitted that he has had a personal relationship with them since he was 7. And I figured if Neil had the courage to come out and admit that, I think I would do it too, And so that's what happened last February. And I thought, well, nobody's going to pay any attention to me anymore. They'll figure I'm just an old coot who's gone over the edge. But surprisingly, I have been receiving invitations to speak all over the damn place.
Yeah. It seems to be, I don't know, you probably know it's the same thing I have. My gut feeling is that they've been watching us since birth and might even have been involved in our birth, who knows. But there's this plan unfolding, and they've been overseeing this plan since day one, and this is part of the plan, eventually to come out and just, deliver to people the truth of the situation and let people know it's been going on forever.
Well, James, I've concluded, and I have been told that literally the human race is they call it a work in progress. We literally are an unfinished product.
That's for sure.
And the human species is going through. It's a transition. We're going through a period of adolescence, and we're approaching adulthood, and it's more than just a transition, James. It's a transcendent transformation. The entire species is undergoing this transformation. And we have good friends in high places, and I've said that in a kind of a humorous vein over the years, but it's quite true.
Oh, yeah.
They've been involved with us, James, from the very beginning of our history, and I totally bought into Zecharia Sitchin's research. I knew the old gentleman before he left, and I've admired him, and his scholarship was impeccable. And literally the story that he tells from, translating the old cuneiform tablets is that this one particular group had a hand in genetically manipulating us from a lower order of species into what we are today. And that's been going on now for 100,000 years at least. And what's interesting to me is that this genetic manipulation is still underway, James. It's still taking place. It's still taking place. They're involved in us. There are several advanced races involved. The last time I was able to get some information is that there are 4 different groups. And they're all humanoid, but one group is literally, they look so much like us, they can move in our midst, sit next to you on a plane or in a restaurant or in a theater, and you never know the difference. And we've had a personal relationship with them from the beginning of our history.
Yeah, they very well could be our ancestors.
Well, they're family, James. Yeah. They're literally our family, yeah. They manipulated us genetically, and that manipulation is still underway. And that's sensitive. That is sensitive information.
Mm-hmm.
I've been
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I've been arguing with a lot of people here about disclosure. A lot of my friends, Stephen Greer and Stephen Bassett and a few others have been yelling about, well, any day now, any day it's going to happen, we're going to have disclosure. And I said, forget it. The damn story is simply too big. Yeah. That president has got so damn much on his plate right now that the last thing in the world he wants anything else is, lifting the lid on Pandora's box, for God's sake. And that's what it would be. And I think most of the people I've spoken to are familiar with the old Greek legend of Pandora in her box. That when you lift the lid on Pandora's box and all the furies come pouring out, you can't lift the lid just a little bit. If you open it just a tiny bit, the whole damn thing blows up, and the whole story will have to come out. And there isn't a politician in Washington who wants to even be around when that happens.
Probably a newscaster either.
Or a newscaster. A good friend of mine, you're familiar with, what's it, Rich Dolan.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just had
Rich has got a new book out.
Yeah.
Called AD, and it's dynamite.
Oh, yeah.
It's dynamite. And the last couple of chapters, I think Rich kind of borrowed from my presentations. The last two chapters, he lays it out pretty bluntly.
Yeah, I can't remember what I was listening to his whole story, and then there's one thing I didn't agree. I can't remember what it was. There was something about, and I told him, I said, I feel disclosure's already happened. I mean, Time, CNN poll said 86% of the people believe UFOs exist, and there is a government cover-up. So I don't know who these other 14% of the people are that are keeping the cover-up going, or why they're even doing it anymore. It's basically over. But, with them showing up all over the place right now, they're the ones that are going to do the disclosure. And I think a lot of politicians and eventually the newscasters and everything they're not going to have any choice. They are going to have to come out with it.
Well, James, as you know, disclosure has been underway for many years.
Oh, yeah.
And the guys, our extended family, our cousins out there, as it were, they've been in control of this damn thing from the very beginning. They could blow the lid on it any time, but they haven't, because they've been monitoring us, and they're sensitive to our fragility. They're sensitive to our sensitivities, as it were. But the form of disclosure, James, has been underway for years. But it's what's called subliminal education. And movies and TV stories and, books, there's a form of disclosure taking place, but it's gentle and it's subtle. And as you say, the majority of the people in this country at least, and I have found it to be so when I've traveled abroad, that most of the people I've talked to, at least the educated westernized nations, they're pretty damn bright. They're pretty enlightened about what's really been going on. And, as you say, over 80% of the people really accept that we're not alone, and we've never been alone. Now, they may not know the whole damn story, and they won't know it for a while yet, but the subliminal education program is underway and has been for years. And there ain't going to be no news conference in the White House anytime soon, because the story is just too big. You cannot let a little of it out, James, without letting all of it out. And you and I both know that the spiritual component is really about 95% of the whole damn thing.
Yeah, it is. And what's funny, too, is that the UFO community ignores that 95%, and they're holding on to that 5% and trying to say this is it. This is the whole deal. And anytime you bring in a little more information, they just come unglued and come after you like